Welcome, every one of you. I feel very honored to be the Honorary Chair for Zach Zoul announcing his candidates for Nebraska Senate. In fact, very, very honored to do this. First, I want to thank, though, the man that he's going to replace, and I think he's got a committee meeting this morning because I don't see him in the crowd. Mike Glore has done an unbelievably good job the last 8 years, and one that we very much need to thank him for what he has done. So as this change comes about in this next year, make sure you thank Mike Glore for everything that he has done. I watched very closely this young man when he was city administrator for Grand Island. And I've got to take my glasses off because I can't read the fine print real well, just to say a few things that is in this release for the press here today and make some comments on some of the things that are there. But here it is. Zoul's 4-year term as city administrator was a period of unprecedented progress for the city in terms of city initiatives and projects. As city administrator, Zoul led the following initiatives. I started to check off the top ones down through that list, and the more I looked at it, they were all top things that were moved forward during that period of time. At that time, our mill levy was around 70 to 73 cents per $100 valuation. And then during the period of time, because of what he started, and I'll say that later, what the difference ended up being. But one of the big things was the building of the city hall. And also building right afterwards, about construction, I think was going on about the same time, the water park. And because of initiating and the work that he put together along with the chamber, I believe, economic development, probably CIV or Convention and Tourism Bureau, they were able to put in a 1% city sales tax. And that was a first for Grand Island, right? You can't live in a city today and live on real estate tax only. It has to be with a sales tax deal. But again, state approval of the new Interstate I-80 interchange for funding the right-of-way acquisition, formulation of the Community Redevelopment Authority, a wastewater treatment plant expansion of over $20 million, construction of a solid waste landfill, which is at the county line east or west of Grand Island, probably at the time it was built, was one of the finest one in mid-America. Wood River and Morse Creek flood control projects, design of the hike and bike trail, design and connection to the opening news of the City Hall, of course, the Webb Road widening project, approval of East Highway 30 widening project, and then the elevated rail project. Extension of State Street and funding and design of State Street Fire Station, funding for the housing study, et cetera. So it's a long list of really things that have brought this community forward to where we're at today. I want to say too that general obligation debt after that was paid off in full because of that sales tax being put in. City Hall and the water park were paid for the day they opened. That doesn't happen in too many places. And so it was because of the administration that he was doing at City Hall. He's had a proven success both in public and private sectors of business. And as our new state senator, Zach Zoul will be very important working with our local mayor in bringing that 640 acres on the north edge of Grand Island back into city ownership, and one that we're really looking forward to. So let's welcome Zach Zoul to this podium today. And Zach, you've got a nice crowd here, and we know that you're going to make a decent and great announcement today. The very best, young man.
Thank you, Tom. Well, after that, I should just leave. I can't best that. Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here today. It means a great deal to me that you're here. I appreciate your presence very much. And I want to extend a special appreciation to Mayor Ken for his support, for his kind words today, and for his willingness to chair the campaign. If there's anyone in Nebraska that deserves the title statesman, it's Ken Gnadt. He has been a phenomenal ambassador for Grand Island across Nebraska. He's been a phenomenal ambassador for the state of Nebraska across the country and across the world. He exemplifies what public service and community service is all about. Ken and I are lifelong Rotarians, and Ken really lives by the Rotary Club motto of service above self. But Ken, I want to commend you and applaud you for your exceptional and extraordinary service to Grand Island and to the state of Nebraska. Thank you. And like Ken, I also want to take a moment to express appreciation to Senator Mike Glore for his service in the legislature over 2 terms. From my recent visits to Lincoln, it's been clear to me that no one in the legislature is more respected than Mike Glore, and no one in the legislature is more studious in addressing the legislative issues before the state than Mike Glore, and he's provided great service to our community and to our legislative districts, so I want to thank him for his service. Today, I'm pleased to announce my candidacy for the Nebraska legislature to serve as senator representing Grand Island. And there are a number of things I'm going to share with you today that brought me to this decision. And a number of things and a number of experiences in my life which has framed my philosophy about public service and my desire to serve in this capacity. And it really started for me at a very young age. When I was growing up, I was very close to my grandmother, who immigrated to this country and single-handedly raised 4 children on her own. And in her later years, I, of course, was her favorite grandchild. How could it be otherwise? But I spent a great deal of time with her. And that experience really was a frame of reference to me with regard to public service and government, because she did not drive, she never had a car, she walked everywhere, to the grocery store, to the doctor, to the park. That's how she lived, and I spent many years, year after year, walking through her neighborhood with her. And I would see during those years and during those journeys together streets that were in disrepair, where there were more potholes than pavement, sidewalks that were missing or broken or crumbled, drainage issues that had been neglected, abandoned cars on the streets, broken glass. The community park had a wading pool that was devoid of water, and trees were growing out of the cracks. The public right-of-ways were unmowed. The grass in the parks was dead. The swing sets and the playground equipment was neglected and mangled. And you know, my grandmother knew nothing about government. She didn't know her mayor. She didn't know her council members. She didn't know her county supervisors. She didn't know her state senator. But she knew one thing about her public officials. They didn't care about her. They didn't care about her neighborhood. And they didn't care about her community. A second lesson happened later in my childhood when I was in high school and college. I spent 3 summers as an intern to the city manager in my hometown. And every summer I would work at City Hall and get that experience. And I would also do that during Christmas breaks and spring breaks. I would go to City Hall and have that experience. And I remember in my hometown attending, when I was a sophomore in college, the last council meeting of the year in that community right before Christmas. And at the end of the meeting, the city clerk stood up and said that it was her statutory duty, pursuant to the city code, to present each council member with their annual salary for their service on the council. And she walked up to the dais and she presented each council member with a silver dollar. That was their compensation under the city code for their service on the city council. And those were hotly contested elections as well. And that really also framed for me what public service is all about. And the last lesson that is very impactful to me, and is really the reason I'm here today, is something I think you can all relate to because we experienced it together just a year or two ago when a select group of state officials made the decision in secret to take the Grand Island Veterans Home and move it to Kearney. And in doing that, they not only aborted a 125-year legacy of service on the part of this community on behalf of our state veterans, but they also sent a message to all of us. They sent a message to the veterans at the Grand Island Veterans Home that they didn't care about them. They sent a message to the families of those veterans who moved here to be close to their loved ones, that they didn't care about them. They sent a message to all of the employees, the hundreds of employees at the Veterans Home, many of which have devoted decades of service to caring for our veterans in a very compassionate way, that they didn't care about them. They sent the message to the families of those employees whose well-being and livelihood in Grand Island depends on their employment here, that they didn't care about them. They sent the message to Grand Island as a community that our unparalleled record of support for veterans, far and above beyond what any community in Nebraska has done throughout the history of Nebraska, was not meaningful to them. And that exemplified to me what public service should not be. And that's really why I'm running for state senator, because I believe that Grand Island needs a strong voice at the state capitol to represent our interests, to represent our priorities, to represent our values. What happened to Grand Island with the Veterans Home should never happen to Grand Island again, and it shouldn't happen to any city in the state of Nebraska ever again. So there are many issues that are important to me in running for state senator with the hope of serving Grand Island. First, I seek to provide a conservative, common sense, positive voice representing the views and priorities of the Grand Island community. We'll talk more about important issues in the future, but certainly taxes, crime, economic development, job creation are all of critical importance to Grand Island. For those of you that know me, you probably appreciate the fact that I've always been committed to putting the people's interest before my self-interest. Because even in my municipal service, I was willing to take the bumps and the bruises or the clubs over the head, whatever was necessary to advance a positive, progressive, service-oriented agenda on behalf of the citizens of Grand Island. My record in public service and in the private sector, I believe, has shown me to be tenacious and driven and committed. That's the commitment I would make as your state senator. If you're looking for a go-along to get along guy, that's not me. If you're looking for someone to cater to special interest, personal interest, political agendas, that's not me. If you're looking for someone that will compromise on their principles or values, that's not me. I don't offer rhetoric, but I believe I offer a record of accomplishment and a commitment to the people of Grand Island. Grand Island, again, I believe, needs a strong voice at the state capitol. We need effective representation. We need to ensure that Grand Island's interests and priorities are protected, and we need to make certain that our values are represented. As I'm sure you can appreciate, any campaign is a team effort. I don't know if Greg mentioned to you when you came in that by virtue of walking in the door today, you were automatically a member of the team. Not really, but I hope you will join the team because it's going to be a team effort to make this happen. I would ask for your support. I would value your support. It's a year-long campaign. We have a lot of hard work to do. We're going to focus on issues. We're going to focus on priorities. And most importantly, we're going to focus on what public service is all about and what it should mean to anybody that the public has entrusted with their vote. I talked to a friend the other day. He told me two things. He said, first, Zach, don't talk too long. I said, well, that's not going to happen. There's no chance for that. But he said, Zach, be sure that whatever you do, that you're true to your convictions, that you're true to your principles, that you always put the public interest first. And that certainly is my commitment to all of you. And he also said, Zach, let's go get them. So we're going to go get them. Thank you again for being here.